please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's log. Subdates 250912.sus, all the sodding sus. Gearing up for a weekend of work, whiskey and more work. I'm going to blow off steam by trying to teach a dog to eat food for a change. I feel like I've misunderstood this assignment entirely. Hi everyone, hope you're well. Hope everyone's feeling a little bit better after the past, I'd say 48 hours have been a bit difficult for a lot of us. We are going to be continuing going through Idubbbz's video because there are more discrepancies that need to be highlighted, and his selective obsession with the Kino Casino is tickle-worthy. And I say selective because he's clearly not watched their content enough to understand the points they make, and then when he makes the points, he thinks he's caught them in a double standard, as if that's a larger point when it comes to moral consistency, and him not being a moral arbiter because he has no leg to stand on makes this even more amusing.
Now I'm going to react to a couple of these random creators who have made videos or statements about Anissa and I, just to give you a taste of what an average is.
Based on the first creator you pull out of your rear end, I have a sneaky feeling either you don't pay enough attention to the internet or you know exactly what you're doing, and you know this is the only way to draw up the interest. Drive up the interest. Increase the interest levels to over 9,000 disappointments.
And additionally, like in making some of those videos, it just attracts a certain type of person where they're like, I'm going to list off a bunch of people I consider lol cows or people who are mentally like disabled, and I'm going to tell you to make documentaries about them. And then in that case, like, I'm not doing that. You're seeing that happen right now with World of T-shirts. There's a lot of people who think they're like doing it responsibly or respectfully, and it's just hell. It's just like, what the f...
Rather annoyingly, to maintain consistency and allow for context to be heard in its entirety, I reached the 30-second limit, which is right at the moment the person we're going to be using is speaking, right? It's an opportune moment. I just want to point out, though, something within what Idubbbz has said, a discrepancy. Not all lolcows are what you're stating. The term has, much like many words within the language of English, changed and evolved and adapted over time. Lolcows now include the likes of, apparently, Muta. Whether that's true or not, that is entirely up to the individual. Muta doesn't fall within the bracket you've also set either. Yet that is how many are starting to regard Muta. At a point years ago, John Swan was too. Def Noodles too. Hassan Piker also. Whether you agree or disagree, of course you, the lovely audience, hi, that's up to you to decide. So to the person who's about to respond to you, because this is important, some of you may not have heard of this person, but they're quick, they're witty, they're fast, they're funny, and they're also not the dumbest person in the room. That would be me.
Bro, what is going on? Anissa legitimately convinced him his entire being as a person is bad.
Did I once say my entire being is bad?
So using a clip of you to make a separate point entirely is not something totally out of the realm of expectation, it's something you did much in the past. If that person, that creator, needed to provide additional context to prove the point, then they could have, to drive the point home, but then it's an observation many of us have made over the years. You say, each day that has passed, your love has only gotten stronger, which is ironic since your body would indicate otherwise, physically anyway. I understand that you believe that they, the creator, must make a statement that is relevant to the clip they're responding to, but that's not always the case. It never has been always the case. And based on what you were saying in the clip, you kinda look a little bit broken, so the point isn't totally wrong. But be pedantic, it's adorable.
You're allowed to be critical of yourself and the content you're making. You would benefit from being a little critical of the content you're making. Like, what the f is this? Like, actually comment on what I was talking about.
I know you're trying to seem morally superior and intellectually superior, right? But when it comes to those who fall within the category of lolcow or criticizing somebody who's been in the online space with their relationship, especially for over 10 years, a lot of what you are is expressed in your content. So we see you sinking further and further, and we worry. You may not like that and think it's patronizing. You can do that. You're entitled to that. It does not change that that concern exists. And these particular creators that you're trying to look down upon are kind of rising star territory. You never had the chance to be that. You were just good. Now you're not. You're floundering and clutching pearls. Somewhat ironic.
Do you agree or disagree with a statement that you should be making videos and documentaries about people who are mentally disabled because you are encouraged by your fan base to do so? Do you agree with that?
Oh, pick me. Yes. You should be allowed to make content on anything you like, whenever you like, about whomever you like. That would include yourself, somebody who is quite clearly physically compromised. Do you feel better now that somebody gave you an answer? Do I get some chocolate for that? I like chocolate.
And fellas, and even fellettes, all right? Never, just listen up, all right? Never let your partner actually change you this much. Never let them convince you that you are so bad as a person, like everything you do, the way you act, everything you believe is bad, and you must agree to their way of life, everything they do.
Why do you think that she thinks everything I do is bad? Man, these people have drank the Kool-Aid to a disgusting degree.
There is a level of willful ignorance that many of us find an acceptable amount that any person can have, whether that be belief system, denial of science, politics. Okay? Totally fine. Then there's willful ignorance from what we see that you refuse to acknowledge. You refuse to acknowledge what is so visible that everyone sees it. But the very person who must have Stockholm Syndrome at this point. I'm glad though that you've moved off the point and now engaging with their criticism of you. You think they drank the Kool-Aid, you right now are circling the drain. Why? Because you just won't see the problem. It's like the journalist standing in front of a building on fire saying there's nothing wrong. Nothing going on, it's all peaceful, guys.
Obviously, if there's legitimate criticism taken into account or whatever, but this is legitimately tragic. He cannot be proud of a single thing he's ever done in his entire life. He just feels guilty about all of it because of Anissa.
Dude, I'm proud of plenty of things. I'm not just gonna go on stream and declare it. It's so boring.
Out of curiosity, did you watch the rest of this particular video? Or have you just gone for the part that made the most sense to you to frame your argument the best possible way? Because I can believe the latter is more likely because you're not paying enough attention. There are many creators with subcounts like yours, even less in fact, who think themselves above any and all criticism. And then when they hear it, they need to focus on it and go, but is this relevant to what I'm saying here that they're responding to? It kind of is, and then isn't. But you will latch onto the isn't as if that is the wider and larger point to take into account. You are a pathetic mess, and many attribute it to your wife. You can't accept that people say that, so you say that they're basically slop tubers, much like that bitch Hamas Piker.
I don't want to talk about how proud I am of making the Airsoft Fatty documentary. Do you guys really need me to bloviate about how I really enjoyed following the narrative structure?
That wasn't what he was trying to say, nor what he is trying to imply. You've taken his quote and framed it differently on purpose. There's a reason you do better in long-form videos where you break it down into subjects and chapters, I guess, whatever they're called. Segments, there you go, there's the word. Because then you can frame the argument away after you've taken the time to consume enough of their content to understand what they're saying. His wider point is, you at one point were a good content creator. If your final form is this version of a creator, you are better off as a virgin. Seriously. Not what I'm saying, what they're stating, by the way. I think you're the best creator right now, because I get to make videos on you.
It was my opinion that some of your content in the past was actually good before. It was actually logical. You made some good points. You don't need to feel so bad about every single thing. Maybe you did some bad shit. You said some slurs. That shit was bad. Whatever.
Dude, I know. I just... This is so frustrating.
What's frustrating, Idubbbz? The part where you deleted your magnum opus content and went on an apology tour because of it? I think the only one you've never apologized to, and I think it's hilarious at the same time, was Rice Gum, because that was the most devastating video you did. Sorry, Asian Jake Paul. Do you still talk to Boy in a Band, by the way? That guy's been gone for a while, hasn't he?
I just want to say, like, a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about are going to be upsetting, or they're going to be a downer to you, because that's interesting. I don't know if it's because I have a higher threshold. It kind of feels like I do, right? A lot of the things that these commentators are commenting on is they're saying like, oh my gosh, that would crush me, basically, if my wife described me in that way or said that about me. And it's like, okay, it would hurt you. You're feeling bad through me. You think that I'm feeling those same feelings that you're feeling.
Do you remember earlier when you criticized this particular lovely individual for not responding to the right thing or the substance of what they were saying? Yeah, you're introducing projection and you're trying to make a grandiose, patronizing point that doesn't ring true as much as you think, because I think you think your version of a relationship is okay. It's been in the public eye for 10 years. It looks like toxicity, and you don't get it. And your threshold for pain, I don't think that's what it is either. Although I've seen you box, I don't think it's so much a threshold for pain. I think it's gluttony, and perhaps you are willing to accept it as part of your penance for all your misdeeds in your 20s. Am I right, folks?
Of like good shit to your content as well, you're legitimately, fighting against like evil people and shit like that.
Because I'm sensing this guy as being his own version of sincere, because I honestly think I don't know how old this guy is, but I'm going to say a teenager, a teenage commentary YouTuber. I'm going to say that their version of sincere is going to look very different than mine.
Pegasus is 23 years old, dipshit. You really are trying this condescending attack through your empathetic lens, but really you're showing just how pathetically out of touch you are. There are reasons why Pegasus and many others are rising. They know how to play the game, they know how to get the response, they know exactly what to do to get the views. That is the nature of content creation. You're trying to attack the substance of what he says, but the substance of what he says gets better engagement than you. You get mostly downvotes. They do not. If you knew anything about that creator, you could have Googled them and found out from Wikitubia alone their age. But you aren't paying enough attention or trying hard enough, which is why this sucks so much.
I'll take what I can get right now from this guy. When I'm giving my actual authentic take about something, you don't need to put the blame on my wife. You don't need to say that she's controlling me. This is very off base. People who are in relationships, they communicate, they talk. This is just the reality of getting in a relationship and becoming more enmeshed.
That would be true if that is what we see as an end result. Anissa hasn't been the one that's changed visibly outwardly. You have, and only you. She has seemed more controlling, and then stories come out about you and her, and we realize that those appearances are in fact factual. Relationships, yes, of course, there is some give and take, and there is not necessarily a power struggle, but there's a balance. From discussion, if it's healthy. It's not a healthy discussion if you're the only person that has to make any changes to his life. And look where that change has brought you to, by the way. It's brought you here, where you are now, because you've got nothing else to do, responding to the slop tubers, as your bestest of best friends Hamas Piker would call them.
I feel very free to speak my truth. Yeah, I agree, Bri.
Do you want to know why this shit makes me so mad? Because there was a point in time back in OnlyFans Season 1 where I was like, dude, Idubbbz is the fucking man. Such a chill guy. So down to earth. Loved meeting him in real life. Loved playing games with him. This guy was the fucking man.
I think Tectone is remembering this in a kind of a weird way. It seems like he's very nostalgic and happy about it. He's being very over the top of how epic I was.
Or it's equally possible you are trying to undersell just how important it was to Tectone on purpose. We can see it both ways here because this is anecdotal evidence.
But by this time, everyone had decided that Anissa controls my life and that I'm a beta male soy cuck boy. So it actually is very funny that he's coming out now saying man, he was the man just 2 years ago. It's like, dude, the cat was out of the bag 2 years ago. Also, it's weird because I didn't play games with him other than we were in the same guild. I don't know. I think he's just trying to add on to this narrative that the internet likes.
Well, Creator Clash 2 had happened at that point. Yes, there was a little backlash with those involved and those who were pulled for what they thought. people were starting to then dive more into who you were. That doesn't mean Tectone's opinions then aren't valid now, and that doesn't mean Tectone's opinions can't change with time.
He was one of my favorite content creators of all time. And to see that this is what he became. I mean, this guy inspired me to do content. Like, my breakdowns on people's entire character was inspired by Idubbbz. And it's so lame. Like, to see what one woman's pussy and Hassan can do to a motherfucker.
I love, by the way, you, Idubbbz, are removing his profanities and everyone else's, but not your own. I have to do that on my end. People did look up to Idubbbz. Hell, the original name for Content Constable was a total rip-off of Content Cop. And I got so much stick for that title, not for it being too long, but because people were like, it's nothing like it. We were all inspired by someone. My original avatar and backdrop was inspired as a newsroom from Vernaculus. That's going back a long time. That means a lot to individuals. And of course, we then start to make things a bit cringy, which means the mindset we have when we hear these words is usually, well, not necessarily the following, but something similar.
This is such cope, man. Like, hearing Tectone say it, it's just like, it's reminding me how many times I've heard this script. These people cannot fathom that the based epic N-word guy has changed his mind over time.
Oh no, we understand you changed your mind over time. Everyone changes in some way. But you've been so corrupted over time, you look like you are somebody that's not only lost his way, but consigned himself to defeat, but is too proud to accept the defeat he's on the receiving end of is entirely of his own creation, all for a taste of something he couldn't get if he tried. And there's no shame, by the way, in anything you've become. It just, to us, is disappointing to see you live up to the die young a hero or live long enough to become the villain. Or in this case, the first part is accurate, the latter, live long enough to become a joke. You're younger than me. It's ridiculous, to be honest. Especially because, although I have a job, you need one. Because you are clearly so far removed from reality, you can't see sense unless your wife puts it on a cue card.
I think if they accept that I came to that decision on my own, they have to reckon with some demons of their own. Like, it's hard to accept the fact that I've taken this journey and it's not one I regret. It's actually one that I've felt better after doing.
I'm going to end it, by the way, because something that tickles me more than anything that what Idubbbz has said is that he's still using Pegasus, because Pegasus starts talking over Tectone. Although he totally doesn't know who Pegasus is, right? Now, to the subject matter of what you said, the substance of it, many in the online space have struggled to reconcile with the claim from yourself that this was entirely a choice that you are happy with and that you made willingly. Okay, when the money's dried up, because of principles, and there's nothing wrong with that, you stick to them, you go girl. Don't forget to ask Keemstar for an advance. You're going to need it to pay your sodding rent. To your wife's parents. And her eventual boyfriend. You're welcome. Now, as we're at the end of the subject, I'm not doing a part 4, because the rest of it is, ironically, the very thing he claims everyone else is using. Cope. Do let me know in the comments down below. I am streaming here later. I hope to see you there. I'm also streaming on Rumble, because I'm now trying to get onto the creator program there. Any additional support on Rumble would be greatly appreciated. In the description is a link tree with all the other platforms I use. Rumble's there somewhere. I don't know where it is. It's in there somewhere anyway. Thanks for listening, guys. I'll see you about. Ta-ta for now.